Have you ever had a dream so big, so vivid that it kept you up at night, making you wonder, what if? But then when the morning comes, that same dream feels distant. The excitement fades, and you find yourself asking, what now? We've all been there, caught between desire and hesitation, ambition and doubt. But here's something you need to know. What happens next is entirely up to you. Today, I'm going to share with you something that will not only shake you, but it will awaken the part of you that's been lying dormant, waiting to take action. Something that will push you past the fear, past the excuses, and straight into the life you've been dreaming of. But there's a catch. It's not easy. In fact, most people won't do it. They'll wait, they'll hope. But you're going to choose to act. And I promise you, once you do, everything will change. So ask yourself right now, are you ready? Ready to take the first step toward a future that's waiting for you? Or will you remain stuck wondering, what if? Imagine yourself standing at the foot of a mountain, staring up at its towering peak. At first glance, it seems impossible to climb. The distance is overwhelming, and the steep incline makes it feel like you're standing at the base of an insurmountable obstacle. Your mind races with doubts. How could I possibly make it to the top? Where do I even start? You're frozen in that moment, unsure of how to move forward. But here's the thing. The hardest part is not the mountain itself. It's taking that very first step. As soon as you move, everything changes. The mountain doesn't seem so high anymore. The journey doesn't feel so impossible. You gain a sense of power from that first small step. And this is where the magic of momentum kicks in. Momentum is a force of nature. Think of a boulder rolling down a hill. At first, it's slow, unsteady, and uncertain. But as it gains speed, it becomes unstoppable. The more you act, the more momentum builds. And suddenly, what once seemed like a challenge becomes an opportunity. You see, momentum doesn't just help you do things, it makes those things feel easier. The first step is always the hardest, but once you're in motion, the path begins to unfold in front of you. This isn't just theory, it's backed by real-life results. Take the example of a writer. If you've ever tried writing a book, you know how intimidating it can be to start. A blank page can feel like an insurmountable mountain, but successful writers don't wait for the perfect moment to feel inspired. They start writing. It might be just a sentence or a paragraph, but they get the ball rolling. With each word, the momentum picks up, and before long, they have a manuscript. What once seemed like an impossible task is now an achievement. The key to momentum is consistency. It's about committing to that first action, no matter how small, and then repeating it. This is why action compounds over time. When you commit to a daily habit, no matter how insignificant it seems at first, you are stacking those moments of action, and they begin to pay off exponentially. Think about your own life. What is something you've been putting off because it feels too big or too overwhelming? Maybe it's starting a business, changing your health, or pursuing a new career path. Now consider this. What would happen if you took just one small action today? Not the perfect action, not the ideal step, but something simple. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need the plan to be perfect. You just need to take that first step, because from that moment forward, the momentum will carry you. What's powerful about momentum is that it works whether you realize it or not. Let's say you make a decision to start waking up earlier. On the first day, you may feel groggy, and the bed may seem more inviting than the world outside, but you get up anyway. The second day, it's a little easier. By the end of the week, waking up early feels like part of your routine. The discomfort fades. The change becomes second nature, and without even realizing it, you've built a habit that now works in your favor. You're no longer fighting the urge to stay in bed because you've created momentum. The same principle applies to any area of your life. Whether it's exercising, working on a passion project, or developing new skills, the first step is the one that creates the most resistance. But once you push through that resistance, The next steps become easier, and soon you'll wonder why you were ever hesitant in the first place. Take the example of fitness. The first time you step into a gym after a long period of inactivity, it can be intimidating. The weights seem heavy, the machines are confusing, your body feels weak, but if you force yourself to take action, even for just 10 minutes, you've already begun to build momentum. The next day, the thought of going to the gym won't seem so overwhelming. By the end of the week, it will be a regular part of your routine, and you'll see progress. Your strength, both physically and mentally, will grow, and that's the beauty of momentum. It doesn't require perfection. It only requires action. Every time you act, no matter how small, you're creating forward motion. The more you act, the less effort it takes. Soon, what once seemed daunting becomes effortless. What you might not realize is that by simply taking action, you're not just building momentum, you're also building confidence. With each step you take, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you initially thought. You start to believe in your own abilities, and that belief becomes its own fuel to keep going. When you allow momentum to take over, it's like setting a wheel in motion. It gathers speed, and before you know it, you're running toward your goals at full speed. The fear and doubt that once held you back seems small, irrelevant, and distant. You don't need to have everything figured out in advance. In fact, you never will. The clarity you seek comes only through action. The more you act, the clearer the path will become. And the most powerful thing about momentum is this: the more you use it, the more it propels you forward, until you're achieving things you once thought impossible. So the next time you stand before that mountain of tasks, goals, or dreams, remember, you don't need to climb it all at once. You only need to take that first step. The momentum will take care of the rest. Fear is something every one of us has felt, whether we like to admit it or not. It's that tight knot in your stomach when you're about to take a risk. The doubt that creeps in when you're about to step out of your comfort zone. Fear has a way of holding us back, making us second guess ourselves, convincing us that we're not good enough, not ready enough, not worthy enough. It whispers in our ear that it's safer to stay where we are, to avoid the unknown, to remain in the familiar, even if that familiarity isn't serving us. But here's the truth. Fear is a feeling, not a fact. Fear doesn't have the power to define who you are or where you can go unless you allow it to. And the best way to break the grip fear has over you is simple. You have to take action. You might be wondering how taking action can help when fear feels so overwhelming. When your mind keeps telling you all the reasons it's too risky, the answer is fear doesn't disappear when you think about it. Fear only disappears when you act despite it. Let's break this down. Think about the first time you ever did something truly scary. Maybe it was speaking in front of a crowd, asking for a promotion, or taking that leap to start a new venture. How did it feel before you took that step? The fear was paralyzing, wasn't it? Your heart raced, your palms sweated, your thoughts were all over the place. But then you did it, you took action. And when it was over, what did you realize? That the fear wasn't as big or as scary as it had seemed in your mind. This is what happens when you act in spite of fear. The very act of doing what scares you shrinks the fear down to a manageable size. The less fear will hold you back in the future. There's a story about Thomas Edison that illustrates this perfectly. Edison, as many of you know, was a man of great vision, and he encountered failure after failure in his quest to invent the light bulb. In fact, it took him over 1,000 attempts before he found success. Imagine that. If Edison had listened to the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of looking foolish, we might still be living in the dark. But instead of retreating in fear, he kept taking action. Each failure was just a lesson that led him one step closer to success. He didn't allow fear to stop him. He acted in the face of it, and his actions paved the way for breakthroughs that changed the world. This isn't just a story of Edison. It's a universal truth that applies to every single one of us. Think about anyone who has achieved greatness. Every success story is underpinned by action taken in the face of fear. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't that one group was fearless, it's that one group took action despite their fear. You see, when you take action, you shift your focus. Instead of staying paralyzed by the fear of what might go wrong, you become focused on what you need to do. You stop obsessing over the potential failure and focus on the process, the next step, the next opportunity. Action breaks the cycle of overthinking that fear feeds on, and this is something that can be applied to every aspect of your life. Think about a time when you were hesitant to make a phone call, ask a question, or make an important decision. The fear of what could go wrong often keeps us stuck in inaction. But once you made the call, once you took the step, you realized that the situation wasn't nearly as difficult as you had imagined. By taking action, you made the fear irrelevant. This doesn't mean that you should ignore fear or pretend it doesn't exist. Fear is natural. It's an emotional response, often tied to our desire for safety, and it plays an important role in protecting us from genuine danger. But not every fear is worth listening to, and when it comes to growth, when it comes to progress, fear will almost always try to talk you out of it. But here's the most powerful thing about fear. It's often just a reflection of your own potential. The reason you're afraid of taking action is because deep down you know that what you're about to do has the potential to change everything. Think about it. If what you were about to do didn't matter, if it didn't carry the possibility of something amazing on the other side, then why would fear show up in the first place? Fear is simply a sign that you're on the edge of something important, something life-changing. You can't always control when fear will arise, but you can control how you respond to it, and the best response is always the same: take action. Action drowns out the noise of fear. It moves you from a place of hesitation to a place of momentum. Here's an example that might resonate with you. How many times have you been in a situation where you knew exactly what you needed to do, but fear kept you from doing it? Maybe it's asking for that promotion or taking the first step toward a healthier lifestyle. In those moments, the fear of rejection, failure, or discomfort holds you back. But the moment you make that decision to act, to push past the fear, you feel a shift. You feel empowered. The fear doesn't disappear, but it no longer controls you. You've taken control, and in doing so, you've taken the first step toward the life you truly want. Action, when taken in the face of fear, builds resilience. Each time you act despite the fear, you become stronger, braver, and more capable. Fear may always be there, but it will no longer be the barrier to your success. Instead, it will be the fuel that propels you forward. When you take action, you are telling yourself that you are bigger than your fears, stronger than your doubts, and capable of handling whatever comes your way. Fear loses its grip and you step into your power. We all know that feeling, the rush of motivation that hits us when we think about starting something new. We make big plans, set lofty goals, and for a brief moment, the world feels full of possibility. The excitement is real, and we feel invincible. But then, as quickly as that motivation arrived, it fades away. The energy dissipates, and suddenly, the task we once felt so fired up to accomplish doesn't seem so appealing anymore. The routine seems harder than we expected, and before long, the dream we were so passionate about is pushed to the back burner, left unfinished. This cycle happens to everyone. We've all been there, full of fire one day, then drained and unmotivated the next. It's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for motivation to strike before taking action. The truth is, motivation is fleeting. It's a feeling that comes and goes. If you wait for motivation to drive you, you'll spend most of your life waiting. What you need instead is discipline. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will carry you through when the excitement fades. Discipline is what keeps you going when the initial thrill of a new project has worn off, when obstacles start to appear, and when the road ahead feels long and hard. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or feeling inspired. It's about committing to yourself, your goals, and your future, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the quiet force that drives consistent action day after day. It's the foundation of any successful person's journey. Take a moment to think about the people you admire, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the artists. What do they all have in common? They all practice discipline. They've learned that success doesn't come from bursts of motivation or moments of inspiration. It comes from showing up even when you don't feel like it. It comes from doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel in the moment. Let's consider the example of an Olympic athlete. If you've ever watched the Olympics, you've seen the incredible feats of strength, speed, and skill that these athletes perform. But behind every gold medal, there's a story of relentless discipline. These athletes don't just train when they feel motivated. They train every day through exhaustion, injuries, and moments of doubt. They practice when the gym is empty, when the weather is bad, when no one is watching. Why? Because they understand that discipline is the key to mastery. One of the most powerful examples of this is the story of Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympic swimmer of all time. Phelps didn't win 23 gold medals because he was always motivated. He won because of his discipline. He would swim hours each day, pushing through the pain, the fatigue, and the temptation to skip a session. It wasn't motivation that kept him going. It was his unwavering commitment to showing up no matter what. That kind of discipline is what made him great. This concept applies to all of us. It doesn't matter if you're not an Olympic athlete. The same principle holds true for achieving any goal. Whether it's writing a book, learning weight, learning a new skill, or building a business, you don't need motivation every single day. What you need is the discipline to show up, even on the days when you feel tired, discouraged, or uninspired. Consider someone who is working to lose weight. At first, they're excited to get started. The motivation is high, but after a few weeks, the excitement fades. The scale doesn't change as quickly as they hope. The workouts get harder. The food cravings return. If they rely solely on motivation, they'll quit when things get tough. But if they develop discipline, they'll keep going. They'll make the choice to eat healthy even when they don't feel like it. They'll lace up their sneakers and hit the gym even when they're tired. Over time, that discipline pays off, results begin to show, and the process becomes a habit. This is the power of discipline. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't come with instant rewards, but it works. Discipline is what helps you get through the tough times, and it's what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. It's easy to get excited when things are going well, but it's discipline that keeps you moving forward when the going gets tough. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it builds over time. When you commit to doing something every day, even in small ways, those small actions add up. Think about reading a book. If you read just 10 pages a day, you may not finish the book in one sitting, but in a month, you'll have read a substantial portion. In a year, you'll have read several books. The key isn't reading huge chunks of material at once. The key is to show up every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. The discipline of doing it consistently is what makes the progress inevitable. The same is true with any goal, whether it's improving your career, mastering a skill, or becoming more productive. You don't need to do everything all at once. You just need to be disciplined enough to take small actions every day. That consistent effort compounds, and before long, you'll see dramatic results. Another powerful thing about discipline is that it builds self-respect. The more you stick to your commitments, the more you prove to yourself that you can rely on your own word. You become someone who follows through, who does what they say they will do. And this self-respect is a powerful motivator in and of itself. As you develop discipline, you begin to trust yourself more. You know that you will take action, even when the initial excitement fades. You know that you can count on yourself to show up no matter what. When you rely on motivation, you're at the mercy of your emotions. Some days you'll feel inspired, but other days you won't. But when you build discipline, you're in control. You don't need to wait for motivation to strike. You can take action regardless of how you feel because you've made the decision to do so. And in the long run, it's that decision to be disciplined that leads to lasting success. Failure is often viewed as something to be feared. It's the thing we try to avoid at all costs, the big obstacle standing in the way of our dreams. From a young age, we are taught to aim for success, to strive for perfection, to avoid mistakes. The idea of failure feels like a personal defeat, a mark of inadequacy, something to be ashamed of. But what if I told you that failure is not your enemy? What if I told you that failure is actually your greatest ally in the pursuit of success? The truth is, failure is an inevitable part of any meaningful journey. No one who has ever achieved greatness has done so without facing failure along the way. Every successful person, from entrepreneurs to athletes to artists, has experienced setbacks, mistakes, and moments of doubt. In fact, failure is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. Failure means you're learning, growing, and testing your limit. Think about the great inventors of history. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Each time something didn't work, he didn't see it as a failure. He saw it as a lesson. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work, he famously said. Edison didn't fear failure. He embraced it because he understood that every failure was a step closer to success. Without failure, there is no learning. Without learning, there is no growth. This lesson is just as important in our own lives. We've all heard stories of people who went bankrupt before building successful businesses, or athletes who were cut from teams before making it to the top. Michael Jordan, considered by many to be the greatest basketball player of all time, was actually cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had taken that failure as an excuse to quit. Imagine if he had let that moment define his future. Instead, he used it as fuel to work harder, to practice longer, and to become better. Jordan didn't fear failure. He used it to push himself to greater heights. Failure is often seen as a roadblock, but in reality, it's simply a stepping stone on the path to success. It's through failure that we learn resilience, creativity, and problem-solving skills. It's through failure that we discover new ways to approach challenges. And it's through failure that we build the mental toughness required to keep going when the road gets tough. Consider the process of learning a new skill, whether it's playing an instrument, learning a new language, or trying to master a sport. Failure is part of the process. In the beginning, you'll make mistakes. You'll miss notes, stumble over words, or miss a shot. But each mistake is an opportunity to refine your technique, to better understand the craft, and to improve. If you give up after each failure, you'll never improve. But if you embrace failure, if you accept it as part of the learning curve, you will get better. The more mistakes you make, the closer you get to mastery. The fear of failure often keeps people stuck. We see others succeed, and we fear that our own attempts won't measure up. We hold ourselves back from trying because we're afraid of the judgment, the embarrassment, or the pain that comes with falling short. But in reality, the fear of failure is far worse than failure itself. The longer you delay taking action because you're afraid of failing, the more time you waste. The truth is, you're going to fail at some point. Everyone does. What matters is not whether you fail, but how you respond to it. When you fail, it doesn't mean you are a failure. It means that you've tried something difficult, something that pushed you outside of your comfort zone. And that's when growth happens. Failure teaches you things that success can never teach you. It forces you to confront your weaknesses and face your fears. It challenges you to be better, stronger, and more resilient. And it forces you to adapt, to adjust, and to refine your approach. Take the example of the famous writer J.K. Rowling, who was rejected by multiple publishers before the Harry Potter series was finally accepted. rolling story is a powerful reminder that rejection and failure don't define us. What matters is our ability to keep going, to continue believing in ourselves when others may not. Every rejection was a step toward the ultimate success of the series, a success that has touched millions of lives around the world. So how can you start to embrace failure in your own life? First, recognize that failure is not the end of the road. It's a part of the journey. You don't have to be perfect to succeed. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to keep going, even when things don't work out the way you planned. Next, change your perspective on failure. Instead of seeing it as a setback, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Each time something doesn't go according to plan, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? This mindset shift allows you to take failure in stride rather than being defeated by it. You'll start to see each failure as a necessary part of your success story. Finally, don't let the fear of failure paralyze you. The longer you wait, the more opportunities you miss. Failure is only permanent if you stop trying. Every time you take action, you are one step closer to success. Don't let the fear of failure stop you from moving forward. Instead, use it as motivation to keep going. When you accept that failure is an inevitable part of the journey, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You start to understand that success is not a straight line. It's full of twists, turns, and unexpected detours. Embrace failure. Learn from it. Let it be the fuel that drives you to push forward and to grow. And remember, every failure brings you one step closer to the success you're working toward. Success doesn't happen overnight. We all want to believe that the big breakthrough is just around the corner, that one moment when everything clicks into place. But the reality is, success is built on the foundation of small, consistent actions taken over time. It's the steady, relentless effort that compounds and leads to the kind of results we dream of. Think about the habits in your life, both positive and negative. It's the little things you do every day that shape who you are and determine where you end up. Whether it's hitting the gym every morning, reading for 30 minutes a day, or making time to build your business, it's the consistency of those small efforts that moves the needle. On the surface, these actions may seem insignificant, almost like they don't matter. After all, how much difference can one workout, one book, or one phone call really make? But when those actions compound over time, they become the difference between achieving your goals and falling short. There's a powerful principle at play here known as the compound effect. The idea is simple. Small, consistent actions build momentum over time, and the results. You see, success is not about doing one big thing right. It's about doing the small, right things consistently. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you commit to reading just 10 pages of a book every day. In 1 year, that's 3,650 pages, enough for 12 books. That's the equivalent of reading a book every month without any huge time commitment. The key is showing up each day, even if it's just a little bit. Consistency is about doing the work even when you don't feel like it, even when it's inconvenient, and even when it feels like you're not getting anywhere. It's about staying committed to your goals, regardless of the progress or lack of progress you see in the short term. The truth is, you won't always feel motivated to keep going. There will be days when you feel tired, discouraged, or simply uninterested. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the moments when your commitment to consistency will make the difference. Let's take the example of building a business. Entrepreneurs know this truth better than anyone. Success doesn't come from having one great idea or launching a single product. Success comes from consistent effort. The entrepreneur who succeeds is the one who works on their business every day. Whether that means creating content, reaching out to potential clients, refining their marketing, or improving their product, it's the small tasks done consistently that build momentum. The process can seem slow and tedious, but each step, no matter how small, is part of a bigger journey. Think about the great athletes like Serena Williams who have mastered their sport. Her greatness didn't come from a few lucky victories or the occasional perfect match. It came from years of daily practice, honing her skills and pushing herself to be better, even when the results weren't immediate. She shows up every day, year after year, with relentless consistency. That's what made her a champion. It's what makes every athlete, artist, entrepreneur, and successful person great. They don't rely on bursts of inspiration. They rely on steady, consistent action. The truth is, results don't always show up quickly, and that can be discouraging. It's easy to get frustrated when you're putting in the effort and not seeing instant results. But this is where the power of consistency comes in. The key is to trust the process. Trust that the work you're doing today is laying the groundwork for tomorrow. Each small action is like a deposit in the bank. The more you deposit, the bigger your return will be. You might not see the rewards immediately, but they're coming. And if you give up too soon, you'll never experience the payoff. Think about the story of the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise wasn't faster, smarter, or more talented than the hare. What the tortoise had was consistency. The hare, on the other hand, relied on bursts of energy, only to burn out and take breaks. The tortoise kept moving, one steady step after another, and in the end, the tortoise won the race. This timeless story illustrates an important point. Consistency wins. It's the one who keeps going even when progress is slow who ultimately achieves their goals. This principle applies to every area of your life. If you want to get fit, consistency is key. It's not about going to the gym for 6 hours in one day and then taking the next week off. It's about showing up every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes, and doing the work. Over time, those 20 minutes add up, and you'll see the results in your strength, endurance, and overall health. It's the same with learning a new skill. If you practice every day, even just for a little while, you'll improve over time. The key is to keep going, even when it feels like it's not making a difference. The power of consistency isn't just in the results it brings, but in the person it helps you become. When you show up day after day, you develop mental toughness, discipline, and resilience. You prove to yourself that you can stick with something, that you can keep pushing forward even when it feels tough. This self-belief becomes a powerful motivator. When you know that you can trust yourself to follow through, you feel more confident, more capable, and more determined to keep going. Consistency also builds momentum. Momentum is like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but as it keeps moving, it gathers speed and power. The more consistent you are, the more momentum you create. And momentum is a powerful force. It carries you forward even when you don't feel like pushing yourself. Once you get rolling, things become easier. The consistent actions you took yesterday start to pay off today. This is the beauty of the compound effect. This is why consistency is so critical to success. It's the small, everyday actions that add up to create big results. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment, the right inspiration, or the right circumstances. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that the results will follow. Whether you're building a career, a business, or a new habit, consistency is the key that unlocks the door to success. Success is not about waiting for the perfect moment or relying on fleeting motivation. It's about taking consistent, disciplined action every day, embracing failure as a lesson, and trusting the process even when it feels tough. The road to success is rarely a straight line. It's filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But it's also filled with opportunities to grow, learn, and push yourself beyond what you thought was possible. Remember, every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Each failure is not a roadblock, but a valuable lesson that moves you forward. Consistency, discipline, and a willingness to embrace failure are the building blocks of success. You don't need motivation to keep going. You need the courage to take action, to stay committed, and to trust that your efforts will pay off over time. So don't wait for inspiration to strike. Don't wait for the perfect conditions to show up. Start where you are with what you have and take that first step. Keep moving forward no matter how slow the progress may seem. Your future self will thank you for the consistent effort you put in today. The success you desire is waiting for you, but only if you're willing to show up and do the work day after day